What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Anime Princess, and today we're going to go over my endgame build for the league, Hierophant Archmage Spark. This is a high investment Mageblood build which makes use of a ton of uniques. In fact, we're only going to be crafting 3 rare pieces of gear for this project. For the uniques, the first interesting one is the new helmet Ravenous Passion, which is used to enable Rage as well as Berserk. The Rage gives us access to tons of cast speed and spell damage, and the Berserk buff, which we automate through the use of automation support, gives us movement speed as well as damage reduction. For our glove slot, we make use of Callista's Grace, which essentially gives us an extra link for our Spark skill by providing us a ton of base crit, even more so if you corrupt the implicit to have spell crit. For Archmage builds in particular, it's pretty hard to crit cap because you have to invest so heavily into mana on the skill tree. However, this Spark build will be able to reach 100% crit cap, and this is pretty good because we are going to be making use of the Forbidden Flame and Flesh Inevitable Judgment, which lets us ignore enemy resistances when we deal a critical strike. This is a Widowhail build, and for those who are unaware, Widowhail is a bow which multiplies the affixes on our quiver by up to 3.5 times. So we're going to be crafting a very powerful quiver which is going to be buffed much further through the use of this bow. And this is where it starts to get fun, because we're already on a pseudo 7 link with the Callista's Grace gloves, and we'll be able to corrupt the Widowhail for faster projectile support to get closer to an 8 link, which means we'll be able to use something I've been dying to build around since Heist League, Replica Calm's Heart. This is one of the sexier armors in the game, and we could definitely make use of it because we don't need those gem sockets too badly. What we're getting is a ton of mana, which translates into a lot of damage since we're a mana stacker, and it also improves our EHP pool. However, do note this is not one of the meta defenses of the league, and it's possible through experimentation we may end up back on something more standard. Now, I think I should note here that this video is titled Revision 1, which first of all means you are guaranteed to get a part 2 to this video, and it's going to have higher investment with more refined optimizations for the damage as well as defenses. I actually can't even afford to push this as far as I would like to right now. So that means we're going to play around with the build, have some fun over the next couple weeks, because we will need to grind some currency while we optimize the shit out of it. And yeah, if you want to meta cuck with something like Lore Weave and Eternal Damnation, there is room for that in the build, and you can opt for that. Just plug it in. As for the rest of the uniques, I am making use of Aziri's Foible in the Amulet slot. It's fairly standard for mana stackers. We're using a Calandra's Touch Ring to duplicate the second rare piece of crafted gear, which would be a mana stacker ring. And we are using an assortment of jewels such as the Prentice Pact. In fact, every single one of our jewel slots is going to be a unique jewel. And the final piece of gear, which is crafted, would be simply ailment immunity boots to go with a Storm Shroud jewel. Alright, I'm going to be providing you guys with 2 separate path of buildings. The first one is largely inspired from Pulstron's Archmage build. It is what I used initially to test out Spark in this archetype. Obviously, it has been amended to make sense for Spark rather than Ball Lightning / Ice Nova. So there are some changes. We're getting Necromantic Aegis for some value points. And, you know, we have some clusters that make sense for Spark. If you're coming from that sort of background and you want to swap over to try out Spark, I would recommend just going with this tree. This tree feels good. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this. Although I don't want to talk about this too much because my current character looks vastly different. And this is the tree that we're going to go over. All right, so while this looks very different from that initial tree, it is still a very standard mana stacker setup. We've got all the key components Battle Rouse, Dynamo, Dreamer, Righteous Decree, Prodigal Perfection, Arcane Capacitor. It is a mana stacker setup. As for the jewels, we're making use of Unnatural Instincts combined with the new Brandis Pack to give us a ton of extra mana. And by snaking our way all the way down here, we're able to grab all this skill effect duration combined with the Unnatural Instinct grabbing the wheel up here. This lets us hit 5.5 times our hit DPS. Obviously, you round down to 5. We have a ton of projectile speed, so in some cases, you actually may be hitting for the full 5 hits. The jewel over here is Glorious Vanity with Corrupted Soul. This used to be a staple in our Spark builds the past few years, and it's coming back for this build. Corrupted Soul is great because it lets you split the damage between your energy shield and your life, and we have life leech and energy shield leech, so it just doubles our leech. And when I was looking for this jewel, I was searching for a good mod in the pathing node here, as well as a good modifier in this 3-prop cluster. And that's because I really value the caster mastery 25% chance to open nearby chests when you cast a spell. It just makes the build feel amazing. So if you don't know how to search for these 2 specific nodes, well, you use the Find Timeless Jewel in here, and I do have a video on my channel that goes into detail over how you set that up. I'm going to link it in the playlist that I'm putting this build guide in, the Widowhill Spark playlist, so you can find it over there. And there should be a link to that playlist at the end of this video. For the nodes, I would go for Lightning Leech in one of these 2 nodes. The Lightning Leech is 0.2%, and that should be enough given how many sparks we have. You just need a singular source of leech on your build. And if you have a lot of currency, you could potentially go for Lightning Leech as a corruption on your Ravenous Passion. That is another option, but it's pretty easy to get on these jewels if you search for one. My Watcher's Eye is unethical. I was able to snipe this for 60 divines. It has a damage mod for increased cast speed, as well as 2 really good defensive modifiers. We have one for sustain, which is the 20% damage recouped as mana, and we also have one for EHP, which is 10% of maximum mana as extra maximum energy shield. You probably won't be able to get both of them, but if you want EHP, you go for one, and if you want sustain, you go for the other. The rest of the jewels, we got Storm Shroud for element immunity coupled with the boots. We don't have stun immunity on the tree, although we are getting that through the Mage Blood flasks. I'm going for elemental resistances just to cap them out. 54% chance to avoid being stunned rounds up to 100%. Stun immunity. I like to get curse immunity on these flasks as well, and we're wrapping things up with cast speed, as that is just a massive increase to our damage. All right, moving on to the skills. We've got our 6th link Spark with Awakened Spell Echo, Archmage, Pierce Support, Increased Critical Damage, and Inspiration. And I may eventually remove the Pierce Support because I want to recraft the Quiver with a Fractured Essence roll of 2 Pierce, which will be multiplied up to 6 with the Widowhill. And if we do this, it leaves room for Arcane Surge support, which right now we're 8.9 versus 8.5, so that is a damage boost. I'm using Zealotry with Eternal Blessing, Clarity on Arrogant support. The 4-link setup, the automation is automating Arcane Cloak and Berserk, and since we don't have Arcane Surge in our 6th link, I'm putting a level 20 Arcane Surge in the link to Arcane Cloak. Arcane Cloak casts a lot of mana, and that will give us the increased mana regeneration and increased cast speed of Arcane Surge support, since we only have a level 1 Arcane Surge through our Ascendancy. For the final links, we have Sigil of Power, Frostblink Wintry Blast, Frost Shield, and Sniper's Mark. And these are put in the Callista's Grace Glove because all of these benefit from increased cast speed. And if you're not aware, the Callista's Grace Gloves give us faster casting. All right, so my ring currently is not perfect. I don't even want to talk about it because it's not very good. And for the Quiver, this is a repurposed Quiver from my other Widow Hill Spark build, which was not Archmage. When you're not playing Archmage, you do want to scale flat damage, but Archmage support gives us so much flat damage that this one unveiled prefix for adds cold lightning damage is actually not very useful for us. So that's why I was saying I would like to eventually fracture the 2 pierce instead of that modifier. So for the ideal Quiver, we fracture the +2 pierce, and then we're going to be slamming another essence on the fractured base, global critical strike multiplier, trying to aim for T1 projectile speed. Ideally, you hit Chaos Reds as well here, but most likely you're just going to have an open suffix, and then you lock the suffixes with suffix can't be changed craft, reforge Chaos, and you're guaranteed to get Chaos resistance as like it's 1/3 chance you get at least T2 or above, which I would settle for. And now your suffixes are completely finished. You probably want to unveil hybrid mana, regenerate life, and then you could go for Exile Slam for life, but that's going to be quite tricky. A way to guarantee some sort of life would be, after you finish the suffixes, simply do another suffix can't be changed. This time you can use a Wild Matron Beast because your suffixes are full, so that's going to guarantee you suffix can't be changed. A little way to save money. Then you harvest life, and like there's a weighting of 10,000 to get flat, and it's a weighting of very low 1,000 to get this dead mod, and you just try and get well, ideally T1. You get T1, you do another Matron Beast for another suffix can't be changed, and it's a 50-50 if the unveil eats your life or if it eats the suffix craft, or the suffix can't be changed craft, and then you unveil this. It gets kind of expensive, so I'm probably going to stick with the Pierce support. It's not too much less damage, and yeah, we'll push that craft off into the future. Right now, I have spent most of my currency. And that's my build in a nutshell so far. We are going to be playing this build for the foreseeable future, possibly for the rest of the league. So if you're interested in checking out my progress, feel free to join me live, Twitch TV/AnimePrincess. And you can look out for the Revision 2 update coming in the near future. Hope you enjoy the video, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.